I thought meeting his ex would be awkward. But when she looked at me, she went quiet and said, "Trust your gut." I laughed it off until his phone lit up with, "Miss you already." That was when everything stopped making sense and the truth was already. It started in a coffee shop in Portland. Rain tapping softly against the windows, the kind of gray afternoon that makes everything feel slower. Kevin was next to me, deciding between two kinds of milk like it actually mattered. That was him. Calm, simple, never dramatic. It was one of the reasons I liked him. We'd been together a few months at that point. Not long enough to know everything, but long enough to feel steady. He wasn't the type to overwhelm you with affection, but he showed up. Every morning text. Calls after work. Remembering small things like how I never finished my coffee and always left it halfway on the table. It felt safe. I didn't realize yet how much that word would start to change. We were waiting for our drinks when Kevin went quiet. Not obvious. Just still. I followed his gaze and saw her. She didn't look surprised to see him. That was the first thing I noticed. She just stood there holding her cup, like she had already prepared for this moment. "Hey," she said. "Hey," Kevin replied, casual, maybe a little too casual. Then he glanced at me. "This is Nora. Nora North." I gave a small smile. "Hi. And this is Sarah. We dated a while back." A while back. He said it like it didn't matter. Like it was something small and finished. Sarah looked at me, not quickly, not awkwardly. She actually looked at me. Like she was trying to understand something without asking. "Nice to meet you," she said. Her voice was calm. Not warm, not cold. Just steady. Then she looked at Kevin. Only for a second. "Take care of her." That was it. No smile after. No follow-up. Just that sentence, like she wasn't sure if she should say it, but said it anyway. Kevin let out a small laugh. "Yeah, of course." We got our drinks and left. He didn't bring her up. I didn't either. It felt like one of those moments you don't question because there's nothing obvious to question. At least, that's what I told myself. Later that night, I got a notification. "Sarah Wright followed you." I stared at it longer than I should have. Something about it didn't feel random. Not intrusive either. Just intentional. I didn't follow her back. I closed the app and told myself it didn't matter. But I kept thinking about it. 2 days later, she messaged me. Not long. Not emotional. "Hey, I know this is random, but if anything ever feels off, trust your gut." That was it. No explanation. No accusation. Nothing about Kevin. I read it 3 times. Then I showed him. I thought we'd laugh about it. Or at least roll our eyes. Instead, he sighed. "Yeah, she does that," he said. "Does what?" I asked. "Acts like I'm the problem in everything." I watched his face when he said it. Calm. Controlled. Like this wasn't new. "Why would she say that?" I asked. He shrugged. "We just didn't work. She overthinks everything. Gets paranoid." I couldn't deal with it. Overthinks. Paranoid. I nodded like that made sense. But something about those words stayed with me. I just didn't know why yet. So I muted her. Not blocked. Not removed. Just quieted. Because I didn't want to be that person. The one who lets an ex get into her head. And for a while, everything stayed good. Kevin was steady. Predictable in a way that felt safe. He texted every morning, called after work, showed up when he said he would. Nothing intense. Nothing dramatic. Just consistent. I started staying over more. Then most nights. It happened naturally. No big conversations. No pressure. If anything, I felt lucky. But there were small things. Nothing obvious. Nothing I could clearly point to. Just gaps. Like when he'd disappear for a couple hours and say he fell asleep, even though it was early. Or when he'd be texting and tilt his phone slightly away, not hiding it, just angled enough that I couldn't see. One night, I asked him about it. "Are you talking to someone?" I said, half joking. He laughed immediately. "What?" "No. Why would you think that?" "I don't know," I said. "It just feels like you're somewhere else sometimes." He walked over and kissed my forehead. "You're overthinking," he said. That word stuck. Overthinking. The same word he used when talking about Sarah. I told myself it didn't mean anything. I told myself I was just being insecure. So I let it go. But something had already shifted. I just didn't admit it yet. Weeks passed. Then months. The relationship didn't fall apart. It didn't get worse in any obvious way. It just got quieter. More routine. More controlled. And somewhere in that quiet, I started noticing more. The way he kept his phone closer. The way he paused before answering simple questions. The way conversations ended faster than they used to. Nothing I could prove. Nothing I could confront. But enough to make me feel like I was slowly becoming someone I didn't recognize. Someone who noticed everything and said nothing. And every time I started to question it, I heard his voice in my head. "You're overthinking." So I stayed quiet. And I told myself everything was fine. Even when it didn't feel like it anymore. Even when I started thinking about Sarah's message more often than I wanted to. If anything ever feels off, trust your gut. I didn't trust it. Not yet. Not until everything became impossible to ignore. I didn't trust it. Not yet. Not until things started lining up in a way I couldn't ignore anymore. At first, it was small. Kevin stopped calling me on his way home. That used to be automatic. Every day, around the same time, my phone would ring and we'd talk about nothing important. What we were eating. How our day went. It wasn't exciting, but it felt consistent. Then it just stopped. The first time, I didn't think anything of it. The second time, I noticed. By the third time, it felt intentional. Hey, you didn't call, I said one night when he walked in. He dropped his keys on the counter. Yeah, sorry. Long day. That was it. No explanation. No follow-up. Just long day. I nodded like it made sense. Because technically, it did. But it felt like something had quietly disappeared, and I was the only one who noticed. After that, his texts got shorter too. Before, he would actually respond. Not instantly, but fully. Now it was things like, yeah, okay later. Sometimes hours would pass with nothing, and then he'd come home and act like everything was normal. And that was the part that confused me the most. Because when he was physically there, nothing seemed wrong. He still sat next to me. Still asked what I wanted to eat. Still touched my arm when he walked past. If I only looked at those moments, I would have said everything was fine. But it wasn't those moments that stayed with me. It was everything in between. The gaps. The silence. The parts one couldn't see. A few weeks later, he started coming home later. Not dramatically late. Not suspicious enough to call out. Just later than usual. I've got some stuff with Scott, he said one night, loosening his tie. Scott Clark. I had heard that name before. A coworker from his team. What kind of stuff? I asked. Just work. End of quarter, he said. I nodded again. Because I didn't want to sound like I was questioning him. That became the pattern. Scott. Meetings. Clients. All normal things. Just vague enough that I couldn't ask more without feeling like I was pushing. One night, I asked again. Is everything okay with us? He looked up from his phone, just for a second. Yeah, he said. Why wouldn't it be? I don't know. You just feel distant. He held my gaze for a moment, then shook his head slightly. You're reading into things, he said. Work's just busy. Reading into things. Overthinking. Different words. Same meaning. I stopped asking after that. Not because I felt reassured. Because I felt shut down. Like every question I had was already wrong before I even finished asking it. Around 7 months in, we moved in together. It wasn't a big moment. No emotional conversation. It just made sense. I was already staying most nights. My place felt empty. His place felt familiar. It'll save money, he said. Yeah, I agreed. Just like that, his apartment became ours. At first, nothing changed. Same routines. Same rhythm. If anything, it felt easier. No more packing bags. No more going back and forth. Everything was just there. But after a couple of weeks, something shifted again. The quiet got heavier. Not peaceful quiet. Just space. Even when we were in the same room. He started bringing his phone everywhere. Bathroom. Kitchen. Bedroom. Not in an obvious way. Just always with him. And when he did leave it somewhere, even for a second, it was face down. I noticed. I didn't say anything. One evening, we were sitting on the couch, watching something neither of us was really paying attention to. His phone buzzed. He picked it up immediately. Too fast. I watched him from the corner of my eye. His expression didn't change. But his posture did. Just slightly. Enough. Who's that? I asked casually. No one, he said. No one. I almost laughed. But I didn't. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of anything specific. Just that feeling again. That tight feeling in my chest. Like something was wrong, but I didn't have proof. And somehow, that made it worse. The next morning, I woke up before him. He was still asleep, turned away from me. His phone was on the nightstand. I looked at it. Just looked. Then I turned away. Because I didn't want to be that person. Not yet. Days passed like that. Quiet tension. Unasked questions. Unanswered instincts. Until everything built up into something I couldn't ignore anymore. And it didn't happen during an argument. Or some big moment. It happened in the kitchen. On a normal night. With nothing special about it. Except for one message. Miss you already. Miss you already. 3 words. That was all it took. I didn't touch the phone. I didn't open the message. I just stood there staring at it like if I moved too fast, it would disappear and I could pretend I never saw it. Lisa Baker. I didn't recognize the name. But the message didn't feel new. That was the part that made my chest tighten. It felt normal. Like something that had already been happening. I stood there until the screen went dark. Then I heard Kevin walking back toward the kitchen. I grabbed a glass, turned on the sink, tried to look like I'd been there the whole time. He walked in, glanced at me, then reached for his phone. For a second, I watched his face. Nothing changed. No panic. No hesitation. Just calm. He checked the screen, slipped it into his pocket, and looked at me. You want to order something? He asked. Yeah, I said. My voice sounded normal. I don't know how. We ate dinner like nothing had happened. He talked about work. About Scott. About some client being difficult. I nodded when I was supposed to, but I didn't hear most of it. My mind kept going back to that message. Miss you already. Already. That word stayed with me. Because it meant it wasn't the first time. That night, I barely slept. Every small moment from the past few months started connecting. The late nights. The short replies. The way he stopped calling. The way he always had his phone. It wasn't random anymore. It was a pattern. The next morning, he left like nothing had changed. Same routine. Same goodbye. He kissed my cheek, told me he'd be home late, said he had meetings. The door closed. And the apartment felt empty. Not quiet. Empty. I sat there for a while. Then I got up, walked into the bedroom, and picked up his phone. I know how that sounds. But at that point, it didn't feel like crossing a line. It felt like confirming something I already knew. His passcode hadn't changed. That hurt more than anything. Because it meant he wasn't even trying to hide it. Or maybe he didn't think I would ever check. I opened his messages. Lisa Baker. I clicked it. There weren't hundreds of messages. Just enough. Enough to show this wasn't new. Last night was fun. Text me when you get home. Miss you already. Short. Casual. Comfortable. Like they had a rhythm. Like this was normal for them. I scrolled up. Weeks. Not months. Weeks. That detail stayed with me. Because it meant this started after we moved in together. After everything was supposed to be stable. I kept reading. No big confessions. No dramatic words. Just something ongoing. Something quiet. Something intentional. Then I saw something that made my chest tighten. A message from Kevin. Can't stay long tonight. She'll be home. She. Not my name. Not Nora. Just she. I locked the phone and placed it back exactly where I found it. Then I sat on the edge of the bed. Still. Not crying. Not angry. Just empty. After a while, I remembered Sarah. Her message. If anything ever feels off, trust your gut. I hadn't trusted it. I had muted it. I picked up my phone and opened Instagram. Found her message. And finally replied. I think you were right. She replied almost immediately. I'm sorry. That was it. No explanation. No, I told you so. Just understanding. I stared at the message for a moment. Then I typed again. Did he cheat on you too? There was a pause. Then her reply came through. Yes, but not all at once. It starts small. Then you question yourself more than him. I read that again and again. Because that was exactly what had been happening. Not just the cheating. The doubt. The way I kept adjusting myself to make his behavior make sense. I leaned back against the wall. And for the first time, everything felt clear. Not better. Just clear. That night, when Kevin came home, I was already waiting. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just looked at him and asked. Who is Lisa? He froze. Just for a second. But it was enough. Where did you? I saw the message, I said. Silence. Then he sighed. Not guilty. Not shocked. Just tired. It's not what you think, he said. I almost smiled. Then what is it? She's just someone I talk to. Then why does she miss you already? He didn't answer right away. He looked away, like he was trying to find the least damaging version of the truth. It just happened, he said. And in that moment, I realized everything I needed to know. It just happened. I let that sit there for a second. Because it sounded so small when he said it. So harmless. Like it slipped out of his hands without meaning to. But nothing about this felt accidental. Okay, I said quietly. He looked at me, almost relieved. Okay. Yeah, I said. Explain it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move. I just stood there and waited. For the first time, he looked slightly uncomfortable. Not guilty. Just inconvenienced. She's just someone I met, he said. Through work. It wasn't supposed to turn into anything. But it did. He nodded once. Yeah, but it's not serious. Not serious. He kept saying it like that made it better. Then why are you seeing her behind my back? I asked. I didn't want to hurt you, he said immediately. Too fast. Too easy. Like he'd already practiced that answer. That doesn't even make sense, I said. He sighed, running his hand through his hair like this conversation was exhausting him. I was going to tell you, he added. Were you? I asked. When? He didn't answer. He just looked at me like I was making this bigger than it needed to be. It just happened, he said again. Same line. Same tone. And that's when something in me settled. Not in a good way. Just clear. He wasn't going to say anything different. Not because he didn't have more to say. Because this was enough for him. This explanation. This version of what he did. This was how he saw it. And somehow, he expected me to see it the same way. So what now? He asked. That caught me off guard. What do you mean? He shrugged slightly. I mean, are we breaking up or what? Or what? Like those were the only options. Like everything that just happened could be reduced to that. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at him. Really looked at him. And for the first time, I noticed something I hadn't wanted to admit before. He wasn't scared of losing me. He was waiting to see what I would do. Do you even want to fix this? I asked. He hesitated. Just for a second. But it was enough. Yeah, he said. Of course. It didn't sound real. It sounded like the right answer. I nodded slowly. Okay, I said. And he relaxed. That was the moment I knew. We weren't fixing anything. He thought we might. I knew we wouldn't. We didn't argue after that. We didn't go back and forth. We just stopped. Not officially. Not out loud. But something between us ended right there. And neither of us said it. The next few days felt normal. That was the strangest part. He still texted me during the day. Still asked what I wanted to eat. Still sat next to me on the couch like nothing had changed. Like what I found didn't matter. Or like he thought I would move past it. I watched him during those days. Not in a jealous way. Not trying to catch him. Just, clearly. Without excuses. Without explaining things for him. And what I saw was simple. He didn't stop. One afternoon, he was in the shower. His phone buzzed on the counter. I didn't hesitate this time. I picked it up. Lisa Baker. Same time tonight? My chest didn't tighten this time. It didn't hurt the same way. Because now it wasn't confusion. It was confirmation. I put the phone back down. And for the first time, I felt calm. Not okay. Not healed. Just decided. I didn't confront him again. I didn't need to. Because nothing he could say would change what I already knew. That night, he came out of the shower like everything was normal. Hey, he said. You good? Yeah, I said. And for once, I wasn't lying. I was done asking. Done waiting. Done trying to make something make sense that never did. And he didn't even realize it. That was the part that stayed with me. Not what he did. But how easily he kept going after I knew. Like nothing had actually changed. I didn't leave that night. And I didn't forgive him either. I stayed. Not for him. For me. Because I needed time to understand what I was feeling without him standing in front of me trying to explain it away. The next morning felt like every other morning. He got ready for work. Coffee, keys, quick glance at his phone. Same routine. See you later, he said, leaning in to kiss my cheek. Yeah, I said. My voice sounded normal. That was the strange part. Everything on the outside still looked the same. The door closed behind him, and I stood there for a few seconds, just listening to the silence. Then I moved. Not fast. Not emotional. Just steady. I went into the bedroom and pulled out my bag. Started with the easy things. Clothes. My laptop. The stuff that felt like mine. No hesitation. No second guessing. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad in that moment. I was clear. That was it. Clear. Every time I paused, I thought about the same things. The message. The way he said it just happened. The way he wasn't even afraid of losing me. And somehow, that made everything easier. By the time I was done, the apartment looked exactly the same. Nothing broken. Nothing out of place. You wouldn't be able to tell anything had happened. And that felt right. Because nothing about this ended loudly. It ended quietly. Over time. In small moments I kept ignoring. I walked into the kitchen and set the key on the counter. Right where his phone had been that night. I looked around once more. Then I left. No note. No message. Nothing. The door closed behind me, and that was it. I didn't look back. Later that evening, my phone buzzed. Kevin. Can we talk? I stared at the message for a while. Not because I didn't know what to do. Because I wanted to make sure I really didn't care. Then I locked my phone. And didn't answer. A few days later, I got another message. This time from Sarah. I heard you left. I don't know how she knew. Maybe he told her. Maybe she just guessed. Yeah, I replied. There was a pause. Then she said, you did what I wish I did sooner. I read that a few times. It should have made me feel better. But it didn't. Because part of me still wondered. If I gave up too quickly. If I should have tried harder. If maybe it really wasn't serious like he said. Those thoughts didn't go away right away. They stayed. Quiet. Persistent. The same way everything else had been. It's been a few months now. I moved into a smaller place across the city. Quieter. Closer to a park I walk through sometimes when I can't sleep. Work feels easier again. My head feels clearer. Not perfect. But better. I don't check on him anymore. I don't look at his social media. I don't try to figure out if he's still with her. Or someone else. Because I think I already know. And knowing doesn't change anything. Sometimes, though, I still think about that first message. If anything ever feels off, trust your gut. It was so simple. So easy to ignore. And somehow, the most honest thing anyone said to me the entire time. I didn't trust it at first. But I do now. More than I used to. And I think that's the only thing I really got out of all of this. Not closure. Not answers. Just clarity. So this is what I keep coming back to. If something isn't serious yet, but it's already happening behind your back, was I wrong for leaving without trying to fix it? Or was that exactly the point?